going to look like, what politics moving forward are going to look like, and how some of these things are ultimately going to play out. I mean, one of the things that we've both been watching closely is this fight over whether or not progressives should use the leverage they have in the speaker vote to force any concession with the one that's been, most prominent, most popular, a Medicare for all floor vote. And it's been really kind of disconcerting how much pushback there's been on that idea, which to me is like, seems really basic and really obvious. You have this point of leverage. You have a thing that you want. And look, okay, if Medicare for all floor vote isn't the thing that you want, I think that makes a lot of sense in a pandemic. But if there's a different set of like things that you want to ask for, everybody get together and figure that out. But instead, it's just been this dismissal of like, no, we're probably not going to do that.
Yeah, you're actually, funny enough, you're seeing the wisdom of the tactic in real time as you see what Bernie did, trying to force the vote on the $2,000 checks. Because
yes, very analogous, actually.
What happened was, with Bernie saying, no, we're not even going to pass the defense bill unless you allow a vote on the $2,000 checks. What happened as a result of that? Now he even forced Biden's hand, where Biden had to say in a press conference, yeah, I support the $2,000.
Barely, reluctantly.
Previously, he wasn't saying it, though, right?
Yeah.
But this is what happens. You drag the Overton window by forcing stuff. That's exactly what the Tea Party did. It's exactly why John Boehner stepped down, and it is exactly the kind of thing that we're looking for with hashtag force the vote, which is... And it's not even, I hate it when people say, oh, it's performative or it's symbolic.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, not really. Like, soon as we know we're going to have that vote, do you have any idea the pressure that's going to be exerted on Washington, D.C., how many people you can get in the street, how many phone calls you can make to every single congressperson's office, where you convince them that if you don't do this, you're going to lose your reelection. There's no doubt about it.
Right.
So, yes, is it likely that it won't actually pass? Yes, of course. But I'd rather have a 5% chance of getting it than a 0% chance of getting it. And you have a 0% chance of getting it if you don't have the vote at all. And so you have the vote, you drag the conversation in the Overton window to the left, you make that an actual litmus test, and then you'd be surprised when you fight and you stand for something, it pays dividends. And like we saw with the $2,000 checks, if you're dragging even Biden to admit that it's a good idea,
right,
who knows what the hell could happen with Medicare for all during a pandemic where 315,000 people are dead. Now it's 330,000 people. I blinked and it's 15,000 more.
I mean, you have the people on your side. Why wouldn't you want to make that abundantly clear? And
That's
create
right.
and make it clear, like, who is on the side of the people and who is not. Because, look, the whole Democratic Party pretends to be on the side of the people, pretends to support some sort of health care as a human right. Like, why wouldn't you, at this critical moment, want to make things completely clear for people? And the other part of this debate that has been kind of frustrating in the way that it's played out and the way that both of us have been portrayed in this is we've been portrayed as the anti-AOC left.
Ridiculous. Listen.
Which is like, and it annoys me on so many levels because the part of it that annoys me the most is this idea that politics should be covered as like almost like a celebrity culture thing where you're in somebody's camp or you're in somebody else's camp. No, like, we have certain values and principles, and if you support those, that's great, and we're going to support you supporting those principles. Give credit to anyone who is like driving things forward in a positive direction, and we're going to critique when that's not the case. It doesn't make you anti this person or that person. It's just like completely ridiculous to me.
I am a co-founder of Justice Democrats. The idea that I'm against our number one star who succeeded is beyond ridiculous. What I'm trying to do is hold the organization and the politicians to the original principles that we founded it for.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to do. The whole idea was, one of the original names that we floated, Cenk and I were having these conversations, was Left Tea Party. What if we called it the Left Tea Party?
Yeah.
Because that was the idea. If you have these unapologetic, really strong people on the left, what can we get done? What can we accomplish? How far can we drag the conversation back to the left? Can we actually win on some of these really important issues? And so to describe me as anti-AOC left, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like, I'm obviously having a strategic disagreement and trying to make her do the thing that I thought she was going to do in the first place. And also, let me add, I don't think, and this is where I think some people misstate this and get this wrong, it's not that if they don't do this strategy, they're corrupt. No, they're not. They're obviously not corrupt. she's not the new Nancy Pelosi if she doesn't do this strategy. That's nonsense, because the fundamental difference is she doesn't take corporate money. She doesn't take big money. She only takes through small dollar donations. And if you actually go to the voting record, 98 to 99% of the time, she's going to vote the way you want her to vote, whereas Nancy Pelosi's only going to vote the way you want her to vote 60% of the time.
Right.
Huge difference, gigantic difference. So it's not like I'm maligning their intentions or I'm calling them corrupt or I'm saying they've sold out. Not at all. I'm saying you're making a strategic blunder because you're trying to play the game from within the system when you're up against the Machiavellian master who's always going to win in those backroom negotiations, is always going to roll you, is always going to stab you in the back. And so stop playing that backroom game. Use the only power you have, which is the bully pulpit. And unfortunately, they're not doing it yet, but we're trying to force them to do it, and we'll see what comes of that.
I mean, it's an important strategic divergence, but yeah, it's not calling her corrupt or evil or bad or like Nancy Pelosi or anything of the sort. It is interesting, though, and I feel like in some of the interviews that she's given, she's a little bit self-aware of this, of like when she came into Congress, you know, famously first like protested outside of Speaker Pelosi's office, forced her hand as a freshman member, right, who knows nobody and nothing and, you know, is just new in this town, forced Pelosi's hand on Green New Deal in actually a way that's not that dissimilar from what people are asking her to do around Medicare for all.
Exactly right.
Forced them to actually make it concrete, have a vote on a resolution, got support from Senator Ed Markey, which is probably the reason why he managed to get reelected after a very strong primary challenge. Like, these things actually ended up having value. But I think it's really human nature that it's very hard to resist once you're inside of an organization. And these people aren't theoretical people. They're people that you're working with, that you're having lunch with, that you're exchanging messages with, and that you're somehow in this culture and in this club. Like, this isn't specific or personal to her. I think it's a very hard thing to resist. I think it takes a very specific type of resolve and maybe personality type to be the Bernie Sanders who's willing to be ridiculed and treated like a gadfly for years and years and years in the Senate because he's willing to go against the prevailing wisdom of absolutely everybody.
Yeah, and this actually segues perfectly into the conversation that we're going to have, which is insider versus outsider. And like you're accurately pointing out, once you're on the inside, things feel different. I know because every time I've been to Politicon, I've been there a number of times now, I make a point of it's just Corin and I, and we go sit in a corner, and we're by ourselves. And I do that on purpose because I don't want to have a pleasant conversation with Bill Krystal and be like, you know, the war criminal is actually a really nice guy. So, then, next time a story comes up with Bill Krystal, I'm going to go soft on him because I met him and he's really nice to me. I don't want to know him. Because I think I'm more objective as an outsider. And this is why we saw this week with Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman, when they were asked on CNN, they would not commit to supporting Nancy Pelosi.
Nina Turner.
These are people who are on the outside. Now, we'll see. When they get on the inside, what's going to happen? It seemingly, even to the best of them, that human nature element takes over, and it's tough. But you're right. And I think the more we stay true to that outsider mindset, the better we are. And our guest is 100% an outsider, and that's